What's up, my people? Today we are talking about an assertive communication style, right? That word gets bandied about a lot. Wish you could be more assertive. I wish I were more assertive. She's very assertive. What does it mean? And is it something we want? And if it is, how do we get it? That's what we're talking about today. Like and especially subscribe. It means the world to me. Okay, so what does it mean when people talk about having an assertive communication style? What that means is that someone who is assertive is someone who's able to speak their mind. And when they do speak their mind, they say the right thing at the right time to the right people. Because usually when people talk about the assertive communication style in a positive sense, they don't mean someone that dominates the conversation. When they're using that phrase in the positive sense, what they mean is someone who can take up space in a room and add value. And if you're watching this because that's something you struggle with, I hear you. I think most people struggle with that at some point or another. But it's something that we have to think about and cultivate. What do I mean by that? Right now, I want you to think about the most assertive communicators you know. And when I say that, I mean assertives in the positive sense. People who are just the right amount of assertive. I want you to hold them in your mind. One thing you will notice about them is that these are people that seem, and I use the word seem intentionally, these are people that seem at ease in the room, in the conversation, in their skin, even when the stakes are high. Isn't that true, right? You're like, God, look at them. Look how confident and comfortable they are. Oh my God, I don't feel confident and comfortable. My point is the way they're communicating is from a place of feeling like they belong, they're enough, and they have something to say. And because they feel safe and belong and they feel like they're enough, 50% of their mental bandwidth isn't spent spinning on how freaked out or inadequate they feel. Really let that sink in. Whenever we panic about our worthiness, whenever we're spinning on whether or not we belong, we are eating up valuable cognitive bandwidth. I am convinced of this. And that's why the people that are so assertive, they look so comfortable because they got the brain space to come up with the big ideas or the big statements or the perfect question or whatever the thing is. So the greatest thing you can do to become more assertive as a communicator is to stop spinning your wheels feeling less than. Now, that could be a whole topic in and of itself, but suffice it to say that the way you talk to yourself, the stories you tell yourself about who you are, affect the way you talk, affect the way you listen, and affect your presence in the room. Now, I know it's not just like you flip a switch and suddenly you feel like you're enough. I know. In fact, the more trauma you've had in your life, the harder that switch is to flip. For those of us who really, really struggle with worthiness, it is absolutely critical that we get help with that. I have worked with a therapist for years because it's the number one issue I am confronting in this lifetime is not feeling like I'm enough. And so I have worked on that with someone that I trust, a licensed therapist in my case. But if you really struggle with it, you might think about working with a therapist too, or a pastor or a life coach or somebody that can help you begin to reclaim your own worthiness. I use the word reclaim because you're worthy. Just by breathing, you woke up like this. I'm not someone who believes that we have to earn our worthiness. We simply are worthy. We have to believe we're worthy. We fake it till we make it until we start communicating as if we feel that we are worthy. And then once you get going on that, your self-esteem improves because you're killing it and you're taking risks and sometimes you're falling down, but mostly you're doing well. And it's a positive vortex of awesome that starts to build. So I don't want to be flippant and make it sound like, oh, you just have to decide that you're enough, honey, and then you got it. I know that's not how it works. But if you really struggle with it, get help. Then Start replacing the thoughts in your mind of I'm not enough and I don't belong and I'm going to get kicked out of the room. Start replacing those thoughts with I know what I know, they know what they know, together we'll know more. I'm doing the best I can, so is everybody else. I woke up like this, I'm worthy because I'm breathing. Whatever mantra you need, start working with it. Start decreasing the mental noise that you bring into meetings, because that mental noise is causing you to be not assertive. That mental noise is keeping you quiet and keeping you small. So that's the first thing. The second thing about becoming more assertive is this. Every single one of us has gifts, like things that we're good at in a meeting or in a conversation. Some people are, like a lot of the extroverts in the world, are amazing at listening, perceiving, and asking exactly the right question that needs to be asked. Extroverts will be like, blah, 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 blah. And then along comes this wise introvert who's been watching and waiting and listening, asks the precise question and changes the course of the conversation for the better. If that's your superpower and that's a skill you think you might have, a talent you might have, choose to work with it. Choose to cultivate it and develop it. Give yourself little assignments when you go into a meeting. You know what? I'm going to listen and I'm going to think about questions that I have. I'm going to think about questions that I think could elevate this discourse or push this ball further down the field, right? Sometimes we conflate and confuse being assertive with just yapping, getting airtime during a meeting. Nobody needs more airtime, okay? We're in enough meetings. We want value. And value sometimes comes in the form of a brilliant, even simple. Sometimes the most brilliant questions are the simplest questions because they take us back to sort of first principles, basics. So pick a talent that you think you might have, like that little gift that you have in a meeting, and develop it. So for example, for me, my gift is that I am so good at getting people to rally around a common vision. I'm really good at, I'm not necessarily the one asserting what that vision is, but I'm really good at creating a space where people can collaborate and crystallize on a vision that then everybody gets excited about. That is my jam. It has always been my jam. And earlier in my career, I started to sense that that was my jam, and I worked on it and developed it, and now I am the queen, y'all. I'm like Khaleesi of getting people excited about a vision. I'm not all the way through Game of Thrones, so if something happens and that's not a good metaphor, like I don't know what to tell you, I haven't finished the series yet. What I mean to say is I'm the queen of getting people excited about a vision. Okay, having said all that, so we're working on less bandwidth dedicated to second guessing yourself. We're working on figuring out what your secret sauce is, what you're really good at in a meeting, and developing that, right? Third, I want you to visualize your future self, the assertive, positive contributor that you want to become. And I want you to see that vision of yourself a little bit every day. Maybe 60 seconds before a meeting, you visualize yourself being the absolute rock star that you are. And you sit with it and you feel what that would feel like to be so assertive and strong in meetings in a good way. And then you go into that meeting with that assertiveness. Now that will change the way you show up and communicate. Now, we've spent a lot of time talking about an assertive communication style in the positive sense. What about when somebody tells you you're too assertive, that you rub people the wrong way with your assertiveness? That's the shadow side of having an assertive communication style. Every style has its downside, and being too much is definitely one of the downsides of being an assertive communicator. So the question is, how do you dial up the positive aspects of assertiveness and dial down the negative sides of assertiveness? Here is the one exercise I want you to use if you feel like you're getting too assertive, if you're one of those people that's been told you're too assertive, right? The one thing you want to pay attention to is, are you in the room listening to what's going on? Are you reading the room, and are you contributing in a way that is in sync with where everybody's at in the room? People that tend to be overly assertive are so in their own heads. They're so focused on their own ego, their own goals, their own agendas. They're not team playing in the meeting. And from that place of self-focus, they're asserting and asserting and asserting, and they are pissing people off or shutting people down. So to me, the exercise, there's a million exercises I give people with that, but the one that seems to make a big difference for a lot of people is getting them to double down on listening. If you are overly assertive, give yourself the assignment to go into meetings, to be a good listener, and to respond based on what you're hearing, not just what wants to jump out of your mouth. I hope that was helpful, you guys. This is a really big conversation, and I'll do more videos about this if you want. Drop me a note, let me know what you think. And as always, please subscribe. Sharing is caring. Do you need somebody that needs this? Send them that way. And as always, shine on. We need your light. I'll see you next time.